Kadota Show. Danny, it's good to see you.
Good evening, coffee. Hey, we got one up now here.
I'm back here with
Yeah,
my
I love
coffee
it.
also.
I'm ready. I'm juiced and ready to go. Caffeined up.
I love your topic for tonight. It's going to be a great topic because you're going to be talking about weather, which is really, talk about timely.
Phil, I heard you prefacing it, cautioning people the last week or two, when it's blowing. And I've had the displeasure of being out there and caught at times when it was dangerous. And you have to take those warnings to heart because in all those years of being out there, I have to tell you, they're a nightmare, and they're white knuckles. And a couple of these instances that I'm going to talk to you about, we actually had passengers in life jackets. So, it's a serious deal. So, it's fun to go fishing. It's fun to go fishing, but safety and, that still comes first.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Paisano Sr. told me that they have guys coming in the ticket office to buy bait and stuff, and they'll say to them, hey, do you guys know that there's a storm out there, that it's really bad? And they're like, yeah, but we drove all the way down from, it's not worth it, is it?
No, and back when we were running boats and when we didn't have the technology for a lot of the, they didn't have the WeatherFax machines. There's a lot of the stuff that we did not have the information on. But I do recall, and the first one I'm going to start with was Storm in Norman. I think that was 1978. And we were about 50 miles down out of San Diego.
So down the Baja Coast?
You're down the Baja Coast, yeah. And
down
we
there.
were close because I remember coming back, not too far from the Coronados as well on the way up.
50 miles, you're probably off Rosarito or a little bit below that.
Yeah, a little below that, you know. But it was greasy slick. And when we got the word that you got to turn around and kick it for home.
Now, who gave you the word?
It came out of the landings.
Yeah.
It came via the radio,
You were running out of H&M?
H&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
back in the Phil Lowbread days, maybe.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
right?
It
Yeah.
was. It absolutely was. And so, it was absolutely greasy slick, and we're going, what is going on? But we just didn't have, the knowledge that we do now with WeatherFax and, what's going on with the weather system. But they says kick it in the behind and kick it home.
Did they tell you what was going on?
Yeah. They
Yeah,
said
okay.
it's going to come up. And, it was, the calm before the storm?
Yeah.
That phrase was not coined for nothing because it was greasy slick. And we go, we got to turn around in this. And we turned around. We started kicking for home.
This was what month?
I think it was 1978. It was their summertime. I think it was July or August.
Okay.
It was, because we were only down there for a couple months at that time of year. We were, from leaving here and San Pedro, and we'd be down at H&M for the summertime.
Yeah.
But,
was it a hurricane or a tropical storm? Or do you remember?
Bad storm.
Yeah.
Which is close to hurricane.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just below hurricane level.
Yeah, so 50, 60 miles an hour.
So, we kicked it for home, and, before we even got to Coronados, it was coming from behind us, and it was blowing. It was really it was blowing hard, and it came up real fast. What I do recall, and this will stay in my mind forever, some of you have watched surfing contests where the surfers go out on these big waves and they'll sit outside and stage, time it, and then go into the drop into these big waves. Well, can you imagine that with 65 to 90-foot boats, watching these things break coming across Point Loma, and it was like a big cresting wave, and you had to time it and just hit it, just punch it. We had passengers in life jackets. We weren't taking any chances.
Were they scared? The people? Well, once you put a life jacket on, they know it's got some seriousness.
And you see what's going on. When you see it breaking at Point Loma, 18 foot, 15 foot. So we were all staged out there, like I have to say, like you're in a surfing deal, getting ready to drop in, but you're going one at a time. And I know that Wiggy, Mike Thompson, had the Patrician at the time.
He's down at Newport Landing now.
He's down at Newport. And I think Wiggy's retired out, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. From running, I think he still is involved, but off the boats, I think.
Wiggy will never forget that one because we saw him go on his side. Patrician has 3 853s. I mean, I'm sure we were all full boring it going in, but we were all staging. It's like surfing. One guy goes at a time, right?
How
And he went on his side, and we saw tackle boxes, ice chests going into the water.
Really?
Then when we got back in, once you got inside the point after you surfed in, we got back, and you remember a lot of young kids won't know this, but there used to be a lot of houseboats and
Yeah.
everything in the center in between, and you'd go around the houseboats and you go around to the right, you did Fisherman's Landing and Point Loma, and you go to the left, there's H&M and Point Loma. There's all these houseboats that are in there. Well, it was blowing 65 there, and that ended pretty much all those houseboats. Most of them sunk, got washed out.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What-
docking the boat was gnarly too.
Before that, what do you do with your passengers? Are they in the bunk room, the
No,
galley?
no, we had them on deck, in the galley,
Yeah.
you know.
Because I'm
we
thinking
had 'em
about
in-
you're talking about Wiggy.
Yeah.
If tackle boxes and all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, that was on the outside.
Passengers could have gone over
Passengers, yeah. Oh, easily.
if they were out.
Oh,
out on-
easily. Yeah, they were inside. I guess on some of the boats, it probably would have been better to have them in the bunk room. Although, you think of worst case scenario, you don't want to be trapped in a bunk room if it breaks
That's
on
true.
you too. So,
Yeah, you want to be able to get out and
Right.
float around.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Let me just, hey, real
Yeah.
quick, Dan Smith says, good evening, Phil, Danny, and the fine fishing folks of the Freeman Adventure family, Kim and Danny in San Diego. They're great folks, Danny.
Awesome.
You've met them. They were here at our big event
Oh,
down
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you've
Cool,
met them.
cool.
And
Awesome.
Dan and Kim saw that Isaac Purcell the other night, he has slow internet, so he couldn't answer the questions to win some free fishing line. They won, and they gave it to Isaac.
Oh,
Lovely people, let me tell you. And
Very
another
classy.
great
Awesome.
guy, fun guy. I love David Rosenthal. He says good evening also. So
awesome.
back to Storm and Norman. We got tackle boxes going over. We got boats going sideways.
It was a white knuckle deal, and
Yeah.
it wasn't done because they had people at the dock waiting for everybody, extended lines to throw out to you, so you had even if you can gaff it. Because if you can gaff the line, get it on a cleat, you could always spring it with the power on the boat. And it was tough. It was tough even docking the boats there. Because it was howling 65 right there.
It
at
was?
the landing. Yeah.
So
if
that
you
is
could
almost
imagine that-
hurricane
Oh yeah.
force.
Well, it took all those houseboats off the mooring that was right in front of it. And
Wow.
It cleaned that area up because it used to be people, a lot of people that were residing in those things.
The staging that you talked about, was that how did that work? Was it first come, first serve? Or
Oh yeah,
everybody?
we just took turns going in.
Yeah. So everybody
We just
lined
took
up
turns in.
depending upon when you arrived.
And I had to do that once up north when we were commercial fishing at Santa Cruz has a breakwater, and you go in either side like that, but you'll kind of roll and kind of surf in a little bit. It's it's a
Little hairy.
hairy,
Morro Bay can be that way also,
Morro
right?
Bay can be that when you got a tight channel and you want to be on the very outside near the rocks because that's where the deepest one. If you cut it tight at Morro Bay, you could ground the boat on that sandbar.
Yeah.
So it's tough too because if it's blowing there, you could be on the rocks in a second. So it's pretty scary.
Were there any casualties in that storm?
No,
and
but
Norman thing?
but I know Wiggy was shaking up, and rightly so. That was one of the scariest things I've seen.
In fact, when he docked, you said he just walked right by you.
Walked up the dock. I think he went
Didn't
right
say-
back to his apartment. No, I think
That
he
was a hell of a
probably
ride.
had to go change his clothes.
His pants, right?
Yeah, I would have. It
Oh
was
my
brutal.
God.
But there's been times, I think it was in '81, I was off of San Francisco. We were commercial fishing with the crew, and we were way offshore. And it was nasty. And it's a different world when you get around Conception anyway, when you
Yeah.
get north of Conception.
Right.
And I kicked it in. We headed for the gate, the Golden Gate. By the time we were at the Farallons, we were like washing machine.
Oh my God.
And then, and not real familiar with that, but as we were going under the Golden Gate Bridge, their foghorn went off, and I almost had to change my pants, just like we.
It scared the hell out of you?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And I was worried because George Mayo, my code boat, was behind me. He stayed and fished a little bit outside, so I kept on the radio throughout the night. And he showed up hours and hours later, and I didn't want to have to answer to his wife,
Yeah.
Ruby, about, hey, where's George? Well, George is hardcore like we all are, but there's a time where you just say, safety first. We'll catch him another time.
Yeah.
So that was another. So we tied up at Skomas, and we were happy campers. But there's those things that when you get around Conception, you go north, you have nastier weather in general.
Yes.
It's a little tougher. But probably one of the worst ones was right here at 22nd Street. Phil.
Let's just remind everybody,
Yeah.
if you want to ask a question, please
Yeah,
do.
put it
And
up.
if you've been in some awful weather or some really hairy situation, share that with Danny. I know he'd like to comment on it. Yeah, sometimes sometimes you think it's going to be okay, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you got to be a good judge of
Yeah, yeah.
when to call
And
it, right?
it's really tough because growing up in Southern Cal, when you have a Santa Ana, usually 90% of the time or more, it flattens everything out, and it's beautiful out there. Well, one night we took off, and it was started out pretty mild, but as I started to get to Catalina, I could see the twinkling lights of San Pedro and Palos Verdes, and I'm going, it's blowing harder than I think, but it's behind me, right? So I turned the corner on the V's, and the minute we turned the corner, we could feel the wind picking up. And we ended up, you got the high bluffs there, and you figured that the wind would come over and you'd have a little lee. No, I was dropping the anchor. We were dropping it right on the beach and dragging off, dropping on the beach, dragging it until we finally get it hung. And meanwhile, the New Hustler, the Freedom, the Eldorado, and I think it was a Tornado, 5 of us, we should have gone home. I should have just turned around and gone in.
Yeah.
But we all stuck it out. We dropped the anchor on the beach, hope it would hang, and it would drag. We setting anchors all night. So we said, oh, we'll wait till daylight. Well, that was a mistake. By the time we got around the east end, which is right there, it took us an hour and a half to get around the east end. It was like 17 feet there.
Oh,
so
my
it's
God.
in and off the throttle, back and forth, off the throttles. 5.5 hours to get in from the east end of Catalina.
To here?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, that was the nastiest ride I've seen. We lost the head door, ripped off the Mustang. I think a freezer door up on the Freedom. The Eldorado. All of us suffered some type of casualty of one sort. George Mayo, the New Hustler, took it the worst. They hit one broadside, separated the bulwarks from the deck.
Wow.
And he went straight to the Dinko's yard in Wilmington.
With
his
passengers on board?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
It separated.
He was taking on water?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but it separated.
Yeah, right. You got to
But
get
he
it
took
fixed.
a broadside, and it was an eerie feeling because here we are, as we can see San Pedro, and it was howling still. You're seeing these big tankers going up, their bow going down, waves going over it, and you go, "What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
And then when we got here to 22nd Street, my dock, I had to do a fast pivot. So before we got in, we dropped all the tanks, the forward bait tank, the bow bait tank, all the tanks, dropped all the water, all 4 tanks in the stern. We loaded them up, and then you say a prayer, and you throttle in. And I had to do a hard pivot and get a spring line on, and thank God we were able to catch it, on the first try. But if I'd lost that with the way the wind was going, we would have run into Jim Ingram, the Westerly, So yeah, it's nothing to joke about, We love to fish, but keep an eye on the weather. There's certain weather conditions, and depending on where you're at, the weather could be a good thing too.
Yeah.
When I bass fished, it was conversely with more so with rain. The fair weather guys would stay off the water, so you had all the spots to hit.
Oh,
they were all open. There was no pressure on them.
Right. That's always nice, right?
So that was always a blessing. When it rained, I was going. Unless it blew hard, we were going. And that got me into a lot of good situations with fishing. You have your tough days too.
Yeah.
But just the lack of pressure on those days, it's a lot more work. You have to be prepared with your clothing. We had special clothing for, and we were used to that being on the boat outside, but yeah, it made a big difference.
John Moore says, good evening. He's one of the finest human beings you could ever meet, Danny. He's a great guy. He's always there for us. Dan Smith has a story. So he says, Phil and Danny, I was fishing on one of the purse seiners. I've been caught in a couple of hurricanes and big storms. One of them, our boat was 235 feet, and it felt like a dinghy bow into it.
Oh, yeah. See,
Can you imagine that?
No.
Wow. Brutal,
At 65
Dan.
feet? Yeah.
Yeah.
We
235 feet,
we
that's
were
a
the
big
dinghy. Yes, it
seiner.
is.
And
Yes, it is.
you get tossed around like you're, that's crazy. How about a little, and I don't even know if you know this story very well, but I was thinking we'd go back in history and talk about one of the biggest catastrophes in the sport fishing industry, and that was the Fishing Fool down the Baja coast. Do you know much about that, or?
Yeah, my ex.
So what happened?
My galley girl was the only survivor. Kathy.
Really?
Kathy was the only survivor, and the reason why she survived was she got a hold of an ice chest once it rolled over. But yeah, he was at Ben's, and the thing is, it shallows up so quick, it rolled. And I mean, the other thing is, the lucky part was the current, you know. But we lost a great guy, you know. Gary was a tremendous, absolutely tremendous man.
That was such a sad time. I remember I called Fisherman's Landing
Yeah.
that day, and do you remember Carol Stock?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she couldn't even talk.
Oh,
She was
it was
just
unbelievable.
devastated.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And I think how many people died in that incident? 13 or so?
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I think Kathy was the only survivor.
Yeah, and I understand, if I have the story right, some Mexican lobster guys saw her and got out to her
The ice
when they
chest,
finally
yeah.
figured out what
Yep,
was going
yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah. But
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was Ben's Rock.
Yeah, it was.
It was Ben's. Right?
And I think it was a rogue wave, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, you never know. You never know. And that was a Drake craft, same hole as ours. It's a little smaller, 55. You know.
It just
55
rolled
feet.
over? Is that what happened with that?
Yeah, it just got lifted up and rolled back. You know, and then
You
when
don't
got
even
thrown
think
clear-
that's possible until it
No, you
happens.
don't.
And
You
then
don't.
when it's happening, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know.
Typically, if I were going to anchor in that, I probably would have anchored in deeper water because it is going to break. It's going to come up a lot higher if you're on a high spot or you know, a rock. So, you know, I would have probably been in deeper water. But you know, a rogue wave's a rogue wave. You're not expecting it. You don't know. It came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and that was a fluky deal.
I don't know if you've had any experiences here, but David Rosenthal said, I've had some crazy times coming into San Francisco Bay through the potato patch. And that place, that potato
That's what
patch
I'm talking
is
about.
well known as a nasty.
Right? Yep.
Bow was in the water and a wall of water behind us. Probably the most scared I've ever been on a boat. Can you imagine? Your bow's dug in and you see this wave coming. You just feel like it's going to push you. Oh my God. That's
They
a
call
crazy
that- they
story,
call that
David.
Pitch poling, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's scary.
You've been through that potato patch, obviously.
Yeah.
It gets nasty, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it can. Thank
Yeah.
God you know, we weren't there when we were going through it, you know, but I mean, it can be.
And
Yeah,
the-
it's a different world, really, when you get north of Conception. You really have to.
Meaning
be very
what? The
careful.
weather just gets
Well, it's
nastier and
just
windier. And
completely different world. The way the currents are. Even the fish species. There's some species that don't go around that corner. You don't see calicos
yeah,
north there. Either Santa Barbara, Conception.
Yeah.
You go north, it changes.
yeah.
You know, it's just really odd. You know, a lot of times the salmon divide, they'll stay north of there, south of there. And then sometimes, like in 95, the salmon will. Remember that 95
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they camped out in Ventura to Santa Barbara? That was phenomenal. You
How
know,
how
but
would you
just-
rate the Catalina Channel as being a treacherous zone or not too treacherous? Or
Well, it was Russ Eisner that told me a long, long time ago that Santa Ana would be the worst thing you ever encounter. And he was right. But it was only that one time in all those years.
oh, really?
Yeah, it was that that experience that I told you about.
Yeah.
We got to Catalina. That was horrible.
I remember fishing Tannerbank commercial with my brother, and we get to Santa Ana. We're like, "Hey, this is going to be like summertime out
we
there."
loved it. You know, you think about a couple months back when we were fishing. You know, the bluefin out there. Santa Ana's great
Yeah.
because it's like a lake.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
but
know?
you get anywhere near passes and canyons, and sometimes it all changes.
yeah, that wrong Santa Ana like we had that one time.
You want? I'll tell you a story that that doesn't have anything to do with rough weather, but it has something to do with Santa Ana. So my two kids, Patrick and Philip. Patrick must have been 5, and so they jump off on the bait receiver. I'm with Bob Alvarez, is running his boat. They jump off on the bait receiver. They're throwing bait at each other, you know, same old crap,
Yeah.
and having a good time. And they're animated, you know, they're running all around. And so they get on the boat, and it's literally 5 minutes later, and Bob goes, "Okay, we're going to start running fast. We're getting close to the gap or the mouth of the harbor." Said, "Okay, hey, Philip, get your little brother and tell him to get up here. I don't want him back in the stern when we're flying." And so, you know, I start talking to Alvarez, and I look and I go, "Did I tell you to go get your brother?" And he goes, "He's asleep. He won't do anything." So think in your head, Danny, 2 kids throwing stuff at each other, going crazy, having a good time, and then 2 minutes later, he's asleep and he won't do anything. I go back there, his eyes are rolled over white, and he's not breathing.
Holy smokes!
And I look at Alvarez and I said, I look and I go, "Kick it for the sheriff's dock." So he frickin' just floors it. We're going for the sheriff's dock.
Wow.
I give him mouth to mouth, and he breathes out, but he's not breathing still full, you know.
Yeah.
And so we get close to the sheriff dogs, but Alvarez misses. So I look at Philip and I go, jump. And he goes, Dad. And I go, jump. So he barely makes it.
Yeah.
He runs up to the sheriff's. They come down. We hand Patrick over. They go up, and now I'm like a mess. Because, you know, when you're doing stuff,
Oh, yeah.
but
yeah.
once it's out of your hands, then it all starts. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, the Santa Ana condition blew the carbon monoxide back into an open boat.
Wow.
Open.
Wow.
And Patrick got a gulp of that. His lungs are so small as a 5-year-old kid that he filled up his lungs and passed out, and he could have died. Thank God I said bring him up here, and because we could have said, oh, he's asleep, let him sleep. But it just made no sense at all. So that was freaking crazy.
You know, the only other time I had a guy that had a heart attack on the Mustang, and fortunately we were just fishing the Coronados, and he was a chartermaster, a guy named Herb Clemenson, and fortunately it was the first year they started going to the smaller choppers. Remember they used to have the big helicopters.
Oh, the Coast Guard?
The Coast Guard,
Yeah.
yeah. So fortunately we were close because they took him right to Scripps and it was okay. But you have to go into the wind. They'll track you into the wind.
when they're going to drop.
Transfer. You got to let the cord hit the deck. You can't touch that thing. It'll knock you clean out.
Yeah.
Because the amount of electricity that's generated. It'll just knock you out. So you got to let it hit the deck, ground, and then you could hook it up to the cage, the basket,
Yeah.
But that was an experience. We had to drop the bait tanks, close all the windows indoors, keep everybody inside. But there's a lot of experiences you hope you never have to experience. And we were blessed, and Herb was fine.
Good.
He got him.
Did you feel like the Coast Guard was super professional?
They were great.
Yeah, they're awesome,
were
aren't
awesome.
they? When they do that.
And that, and
they're on it.
I went to a fire. I think I might have mentioned that before down the Point Loma. We were bringing the Mustang from here down to H&M, and Mike Redler's dad, Frank, we're in the wheelhouse, and we see this black smoke, and I go, it looks like a fire. He goes, Frank goes, nah, it's those caterpillars, it's blowing black smoke, and I just pull out the glasses, and sure enough, it looks like fire. So I kick it up. We get there, and by that time there was a helicopter hovering, but they couldn't take off. It was there was a mascot, and they had a fire in their dry stack, and it just so happened, here we just came out of the boatyard. We're all painted up, all ready for our San Diego run for the season, and we're going up. And in the summertime, we actually had a little swell. We kind of banged a little bit. But I can remember Brian Kirihara, was on the boat with me.
Who was your pinhead at one time,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And all these young kids, especially the girls, would be grabbed. Of course, they wanted Brian. That's Brian. Let's go. But they'd want to take their clothing, their tackle boxes. No, leave it. And we just got done with we scheduled before we got down to San Diego. We'd always have our inspection just prior to coming to San Diego in June, and we had all brand new extinguishers and everything. They're all charged up. We shot off the very last one. Put the dry stack down to a smolder, and then they were able to start. By that time, we had all the people transferred off anyway. But, you never know. And thank God for that one. It was close. It's the Point Loma kelp, But you never know where the stuff's going to happen.
Right.
You just never know. But you have to be prepared for it, And fortunately, we've seen enough. And fortunately, we didn't have any fatalities or anything. So, we were thankful.
Isaac says, hello. Good to see you, Isaac. I just mentioned that Dan and Kim gave you that Opsin fluorocarbon and thanked them for you. Greg Bates, old captains and old crews got that way, being smart and safe, not taking chances. Is that true?
Do
you agree with Greg?
There's only one way. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a joke when we're out there, Now, not to say that we didn't play around, but I mean,
Yeah.
But, when it came
There's
to
a
things
time
like
and a
that,
place for
exactly,
everything.
Exactly.
I think some nun used to yell that at me in grammar school at Nativity Catholic School. They used to yell all kinds of stuff at me.
Yeah.
Have you ever lost anybody on a trip? Did anybody pass away on any of your trips?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
right?
you.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. And I can't even imagine like on a long range. The guys, they have the bags and they
Put them in the
put 'em
freezer.
in
Yeah.
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 So yeah, knock on wood, just very thankful that we never had to deal with that.
You ever slide sideways down a swell or anything? And did you commercial fish at all, or
Oh
was
yeah,
yeah?
yeah. I remember. I used to love that, going into the rack and get
Oh, you
you
albacore
turn into
fish
an
then, huh?
albacore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun stuff, isn't it?
turn into animals there. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Were you
But we
winging
were
the
young.
albacore and all that?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's even better if you don't have, if they get the squid. They eat the squid, you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah,
Just
right.
What if, you know,
Right.
and back in, and every time that squid hits the water, they're on. It's a blast.
Where were you doing your albacore, commercial albacore fishing?
Up north,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Never down south?
Never down south.
Yeah.
It was mostly, if we went down south, we couldn't get them to eat the pole. It was like that fall fish, outside Avila and Morro Bay,
Yeah.
and Monterey, up toward Frisco.
Yeah.
Where we get them good. Up
Yeah.
on the guide and the Pioneer
Pioneer,
Seamounts,
yeah. They were nice ones
Yeah,
too,
they were
weren't
good
they?
ones, yeah.
Like that 30,
Yeah.
40.
Yeah. And
bigger.
we were real fortunate too. On the Mustang, it was one of the few that had brackets on the stern, and we had a rack that sat about that high above the water, and the rack went completely across the stern, so it was a big open area. But I've seen times where the swell was high enough you could see the fish in the swell above you here, and you go, wow.
What, like chasing the jigs or?
Oh, one that you have hooked. And
Oh.
it's up here,
Oh.
and you're looking at it. You're looking at the waves kind of translucent, and you can see it through. And I go,
That's
wow,
brutal.
eerie feeling.
Yeah, my
yeah,
God. And those things bite in that crappy weather,
Oh yeah,
don't they?
yeah.
There's no problem with that.
Avila, Morro Bay, Monterey, Santa Cruz, and we'd have to we'd make our bait by hand, which that was not a lot of fun. But
Yeah, how'd
it
you
was
do
an
that?
Experience. We had a board on, and we teamed up with George Meo's boat on the New Hustler, and our whole crew would go over there. Had a board with the net, and you'd make the set, and you'd have to pull the net by hand, and then barrel them back on the boat. The tough one was like when you got up in like San Francisco Bay, because you only had a short 45 minutes, or you only had so much slack tide. So when you make your set, if that set wasn't right with the tide, it would just collapse that net. It looked like a hot dog. It would just collapse that whole thing.
Yeah, right.
So you'd have to go into the current and come back around, swing back around to purse it up and to get them. But yeah, it's a great learning experience, and it was a blast. It was a time of year where at the end of the season, we didn't let the crew fish, so that's when they can take it out on them and make money at the same time. So
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
good thing for us.
If you have a question for Danny, please shoot it in here. Any experiences you've had on the water, and also hit that like button. We appreciate all the likes I see up there already. Appreciate you joining us for the Danny Kadota Show. I love Danny's show because I always learn a lot and get to hear so many great stories. Was there ever a time when you were scared for your life? The Santa Ana winds or any other time where...
Let me tell you.
Or are you too busy trying to keep focused on what your job is?
This one time, and of course this one made the news, but we were on our way to Catalina, to Clemente, excuse me. So we're going around the east end, and I'm laying down, and Junior's dad was holding the wheel, and all of a sudden I'm in the wheelhouse, we're elevated up like this, and he pulled the throttles back and went crash and up and crash. And this was a pretty famous night because what it was there's an aircraft carrier that opened it up prior to getting outside the line of Catalina.
Oh.
And what happened was those waves that came, the wake that came off that carrier went in, knocked a lot of the boats in Avalon, put them on the beach.
Oh my God!
It was a pretty.
Did somebody get fired over that one?
Oh yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
bet.
That was a
Or
big
demoted?
big boo boo.
Yeah.
An aircraft carrier. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were there. I mean, we were airborne. And came back and blam.
Oh my God!
But it was. That was the only other, and that of course that was man-made. That wasn't nature.
Yeah. Hey, Dan Smith says, Danny, I also fish commercial albacore and love fishing albacore with a rod and reel. You're getting me all fired up. I hope Phil is right. This could be the year when it starts to change over. Rick Slater says, such a great advisor. Thank you. You dress like me, looking good. can you help Phil with his Albie forecast? Yeah, you don't want to get involved in that. You'll get egg all over
You know
your
something?
face, Danny.
Yeah,
Hey, Rick, yeah, you know me. And hey, Isaac just threw a $20 bill up there. How can we be more thankful? Best coast fishing. What is the roughest harbor entrance you'd ever had to navigate? All right, let's go back and talk albacore for a second. What do you think? Are they extinct? Are they gone?
The water's cool enough. Okay, I'm going to give you another piece of history that,
Maybe nobody's heard before.
Well, this is why I don't really buy into what biologists think.
Yeah.
Mother Nature does what Mother Nature does.
Yeah.
And we don't control that.
Yeah, like a La Nina year where you have a month of wide open Dorado fishing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So get this. Everybody remembers 1983. That was the El Nino year.
Yeah.
Big eye fishing, small yellowfin fishing. We had some Dorado, not the volume, but it was just unbelievable fishing. And half the time we're looking at Point Loma. And I mean, even the Royal Polaris was, I can remember, I wanted to get a picture, but Frank would have killed me. The Royal Polaris, and you could see Point Loma in the distance, and there's this little Avon circling the Royal.
Oh my God, that's a great photo, man.
Yeah. But I mean, that's where the action was.
Right.
The school-size yellowfin and the big eyes.
Yeah.
So I can remember one time, leaving. We were leaving late, the dock late because we weren't having to run.
Yeah.
Shut down at night, and you just don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, we had a transition from wide open footballs to straight big eyes.
Yeah.
And we were done at like 10 in the morning. And I told the guys they wanted to go in. I said, we can't go in. It's 10 o'clock. No, we're done. And you just don't know what's going to. It's Mother Nature. You don't know where and when these things are going to happen, but you got to roll with it.
Yeah.
But 83 was just phenomenal on the yellowfin and the big eye and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
But, that hot water from El Nino, and Phil, you probably remember it, all along our coast here, the kelp died. And even, I can remember that wintertime, we were bringing, because the kelp was all gone, we were bringing calicos and kind of restocking the breakwater.
Yeah.
Russ Iser and I were doing it, putting them in our bait tanks, bringing the shorts back and kind of restocking.
Yeah.
And, everybody was worried because the biologist, this stays really fresh in my mind, said the oceans are dying. Okay? So toward the end of 83, Ralph Miller decides, because the biologist, I'm sure this had a lot to do with it, the biologist said the oceans are dying because of the hot water. That's when we bought H&M that year.
What year was this like?
That was, El Nino was 83.
Yeah. Okay, so
we had hot water, all the kelp did die.
Yes.
But the biologist said, this is how much credence I give the biologist.
Yeah, okay.
None. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes they're spinning a narrative. Or
or they're young biologists trying to, their narrative is so they can get a grant money from UC Santa Barbara, and from the government.
It's funny, this is real topical because 60 Minutes just yanked out this Stanford professor recently, and they just put him on the air saying that we're going to die, and and back in the 80s, he said the oceans would be dead in 10 years. So I hear what you're saying.
Happened in 83.
Ehrlich, or I forget his name.
Yeah. So anyway, Ralph Miller, I'm sure Ralph wasn't too happy about hearing that. And that's when we bought H&M in 84.
He thought, I'm getting out of here while the ocean's still alive.
My brother went up, I sent him up, we brought back the Chubasco, which is now the Cherokee Geisha, the Old Glory now.
Yep.
Steve and Brian Kiyahara and all those guys brought it back, refurbished that boat for that season in that short period of time. So before June, July, and we ran it at H&M. But we had a record albacore year. So here the biologists go from the oceans dying to 84 and 85, record albacore years. Record albacore years. So, as far as my belief, do I trust them? No, I don't. I trust what Mother Nature does, and we will roll with whatever happens. And you got to.
I don't trust anybody. I don't.
Yeah.
It's sad. I don't trust the medical. I mean, I need some evidence.
I agree. I mean,
somebody puts a title behind their name, and then you're supposed to I'd like to see some evidence, please.
I agree.
You know?
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but let's not
I
get
don't
too
buy
political
anything.
here tonight. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
No, but that.
I know what
but,
you're talking
but
about. The oceans are going to
okay,
be
so
dead and blah
again,
blah blah.
now these are the same young kids, and I hope I don't get too far off subject, but
That's all
I
right.
can remember one time Russ Isaac calling me, said we got to go up to Santa Barbara. I said, what for? He says, well, it's these MPLAs they're going to impose on the Channel Islands. I said, yeah, well, what's the premise? He says, well, because they're saying that the sand bass are depleted on their their census that they're taking. I said, well, what time of year are they doing it? They're doing it in the fall. I said, well, I hope so. They're headed back to spawn back down in Mexico.
Yeah.
Well, when you get a 18 to 20 something year old biologist making judgments on this, not having the actual time on the water and understanding that those fish are pelagic, that they go back to Mexico and spawn, okay? And yet, you look now and they have those closures still in place in a lot of those areas.
Yeah.
Based on what? Based on a kid saying that, and making that so he can have grant money for UC Santa
Of course,
Barbara.
they're being educated by the guy who said the oceans are going to be dead, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or indoctrinated,
So I don't,
however you want to.
yes, I don't buy anything that they say. Another case in point, my brother and those guys have a contract with doing the research on cow cod, right? Well, in the early days, they would catch the cows, and when they blow, there was no way of reviving them. Now they have a decompression chamber
Right.
on the boat, decompress it, they could tag them, send them back, and they have tracking devices.
Yeah.
Right? So now they'll put the device on. A lot of them, one fish that they're talking about was on the 43, which is 38 miles out of San Diego,
Right.
On a course line to the east end of Clemente,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Okay. So they catch it on the 43, they put it back down. Now you look at the shape of a cowcod. It's not like a tuna.
Right.
You don't think it's going to take those huge jaunts.
Yeah.
You might go maybe to the east end of Clemente, maybe to the 60. You would think even like Tana would be kind of an outside deal.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
They don't look like they're streamlined and
No,
ready
they
to.
kind of look like like me. I'm not doing wind sprints anymore, and I'm not doing marathons, right? Where do you think that fish was a week later?
A week, huh?
A week later, I mean, you look at its shape, and when we commercial fish rock cod during the wintertime, we used to catch those things. It was all in deep water, over 100 fathoms for the most part. Now you're seeing these things in 30 fathoms.
Yeah.
So I think they're being very populated. But that fish that was tagged a week later was off Conception.
Wow.
You would think it was a tuna at
Yeah.
the rate that it traveled.
It's amazing.
So if we don't know that as fishermen, and we're pretty involved with it, how in the heck is this snot-nosed biologist that's 18 to 20 or whatever, how does he know? They don't.
Right.
They don't. And that's where my problems lie with that. They're the ones that are passing, a judgment and their surveys and their studies for their grant money, not knowing anything about what goes on there and the reality of it,
Dan Smith says cool water, anchovies, albacore, the dumper. Yeah, dumping grounds, man. I've had some good albie bites there. Best Coast Fishing wants to know, what is the roughest harbor, Danny, harbor entrance you've had to navigate? What's the worst one? Was it Point Loma that day
that was real bad.
But I think maybe he's asking like which one is more difficult on a regular basis.
You know what's bad is when we went north to Santa Cruz, there was a short breakwater, and depending on the swell, you had to time it, but you basically had to surf in there, whether you came from north or the south end. You had to, and you kind of, it'd catch you on the end, and you kind of surf a little bit going into it. That was pretty gnarly, but it didn't break as big as like Point Loma. That was the first and hopefully last time I ever see that.
But like a harbor entrance that's dangerous kind of all the time.
Morro Bay would have been pretty tough.
It's pretty nasty.
Because it's only deep on the outs. The deepest part of it's on the outside along the rocks, but it's not a lot of area.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you go cut it short, you'll hit a sandbar.
Yeah.
You can ground it there, so it's not. You don't have a lot of room to work.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. All right, here we go with a controversial subject. And once again, Isaac, thank you so much for the $20. We really appreciate it. I don't think these protections on sea lions are helping the species either. Yeah, I think he doesn't think, Isaac, that it's helping the sea lions or Mike Morrison, who's just here off camera. Mike, do you want to stick your face in there or not?
No.
Oh, he doesn't want to stick his face. Any opinion on sea lions? You want to voice your opinion and get everybody out there to hate you?
Yeah, that would be, yeah, yeah.
Are they
No,
overpopulated? Let's
they're
just talk in terms
overpopulated.
of facts.
They're
Are they overpopulated?
Yeah, I think they are.
Does the overpopulation hurt their species? Does it hurt the sea
Oh,
lion?
I'm sure. You know what? Either that, or we need to import some more great whites. But then, you know, the scuba divers aren't going to be real happy about that.
Michael
You've
Morrison.
been fishing longer than Phil, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Was the population of sea lions out of control then? I understand. Don't
No,
go into it any further. Did you see more sea lions then?
No,
No.
So the protection
Because there
actions
was-
definitely brought
there
back.
there
prior.
was a
Oh yeah.
way of controlling them.
Yeah, don't go. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and then we've seen in the salmon fishery up north that they are putting a bounty on them because they're killing the salmon fish.
Well, I mean, how natural, and I've seen this, is a sea lion 40 miles up a river? That's not nature.
Right.
They've learned to adapt to go to Bonneville Dam because they know everything narrows in to about this far for the
smart.
fish counting, and they can sit there and get all the salmon they want.
Yeah.
You know, so you know they got to use their heads. Unfortunately, a lot of those people in those positions they don't have the common sense. They don't, you know, or the, you know,
There's a money trail to a lot of this too.
That too.
And
Yeah, it's
they've
a different
learned.
agenda,
And
but it's-
they've learned if you scare the hell out of people, they're willing to hand over power and money. Most of them.
Yeah.
So.
I think we just need common sense back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think,
Mike, thanks. Benjamin,
All right.
good to see you guys.
Yeah, I think we just need to interject and implement common sense nowadays, and that's partly part of it.
He says they've found sea lions crossing freeways down here. So they're all over the place now, aren't they? Yeah, they're frustrating. And you know, the problem is, or you're never going to get the majority of the public to see that because they look at those things as cute, furry. You know, you buy the furry doll.
Yeah.
And so it's really a difficult sell. You know, I
Yeah.
get that too. I
Yeah.
get that.
Well, and then, okay, so then consider this too. When nature provides that resource of all these sea lions, what do you think is going to come up, you know, to naturally combat that? It'd be great white sharks. So
Yeah.
once the great white sharks get into that, and there's, you know, and there's moratoriums on them, thank goodness too, you need that balance. But there's going to be some people that get, you know, they get jeopardized by that, and weigh that out.
Yeah, exactly. Dan Smith says, Isaac, I remember that. It really happened. There was a sea lion on Highway 94 one time. Yeah, it doesn't
In
surprise me.
San Diego?
Is that
That
is that
94?
in San Diego? I don't know.
I
Yeah,
think
where
there's
is
a-
that,
I'm pretty
Dan?
sure
I'm pretty
94
sure it
is-
is because Dan lives down there. So, and Isaac said down here. He didn't say exactly where, but I'm guessing that's where it was. Yeah, it's insane with that.
That's
you know?
that's a ways in too.
Yeah, Dan says yes. Down in San
Okay.
Diego area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many great white sharks do you need, though, to thin this population? You need a whole lot, right? Because there's a lot. There's a pretty robust
Oh,
population of
There's
great
a
whites on our
population-
coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there absolutely is. It seems like the juveniles are on shore, and they're not into the sea lions yet. They're eating the finfish, the halibut.
Yeah,
stuff
right.
like
They
that,
come
right?
into the beach, and those are the ones you normally see. They're under 10 feet.
Yeah.
And like you say, they're not even thinking about eating
But you
any
know
of that
what?
stuff.
Here's when we went to a funeral on a boat a few years back, and it was a Japanese guy that was born, you know, on Terminal Island. So he wanted to have his ashes spread out there, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the water. And so one of my friends was showing me this picture of this 16-foot great white hanging up there, and on the boat, and it got caught in one of the nets inside, you know, by the prison,
Yeah.
right here in the harbor.
Yeah. Inside?
Yeah,
Oh,
inside.
wow.
And you know, I used to go down and check my props every now and then and stuff like that. And you notice you don't see, you know, it used to be the water was dirtier, but there was a lot of life in it.
Yeah.
But you don't see as much of the bait and the fish that we used to have back in the old days too.
Yeah.
So things have changed, but yeah, you just don't know,
Yeah. Hey, let's switch over to like some of your good fishing when you have bad weather. Like, is that mostly a
there we go.
saltwater thing, a freshwater thing, or you've seen it both
I think
ways?
I think the wind is bad in all respects, but I got to tell you something. When I bass fished, I loved the inclement weather. I like the rain. I caught my 1904 the day after it snowed at Castaic because
Wow.
there are no boats. There's only 2 boats.
No competition.
Taka and I were the only 2 boats on the lake. 2 bass boats. There are 2 other boats, but they weren't bass fishermen.
Yeah.
And so a lot has to do with the boat traffic, you know. That's part of it. People, if you're not prepared for it, I mean, it was 30 degrees, so you have to have, I had special clothing because not only is it cold, but you're running at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, you have to goggles, you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
But to me, I would take, and as a bass fisherman, I'm going to show, Phil, you and I talked about it, but I got a lot pictures that document
right.
a lot of the bass fishing that I did over the years. And you'll see a lot of it in rain gear, in fishing in the rain. And a lot of it has to do with, you'll have less pressure. There are a lot of fair weather fishermen out there. And I just love fishing in the rain. The wind, no, same deal. If there's wind, forget it. If there's heavy wind, forget it. But I mean, if there's a breeze, I'll fish it in the rain. But it's the traffic, there's less traffic. And, with the less pressure, your odds are much greater.
Yeah, that goes on the ocean too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do most of my charters on the weekdays, which is inconvenient for some people. But I do it because you get away from the pressure.
Exactly
You can go to that same spot that you killed them on a Wednesday on a Saturday, and there's too many boats there.
And you're going to be scratching. You'll be scratching
Yeah.
away. Where, during the week you might make 2 casts and you're done.
Yeah.
Dan
Smith says Terminal Island, what an incredible history with the Japanese commercial fishermen. Such a rich history.
And we're gonna get into that because I have jigs that are made from abalone that were probably from Palos Verdes.
Really?
They were made. Yeah, I have some. I'll bring them. We'll do a show on that.
Well, next Thursday night,
Yeah.
maybe.
And a lot of you guys might know the family. It was the Taney family. Any of you guys at
James Taney?
in Long Beach? James Taney's
I know
family.
James. He was born in I don't know if it was Manzanar, but he was born in one of the camps.
I have these Taney feathers that are made with abalone heads.
What do you mean? His family used to make them, or what?
Yeah, okay, they were the Taney family. I think
Really?
it's got to be his ancestors. They're probably older than
Yeah.
James, but it's got the material. I'll bring them in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It really is historical, and I kept them in beautiful shape. I mean, they're collectible. A lot of these things I've put in the Tatty Museum that Jimmy and Joey have, and my special tackle, jigs, putters, schnabels, Clydes, things like that.
Yeah.
I put them in there because I'm not going to use them. It's more, and so Jimmy and Joey started that little mini museum.
We have to go over there someday.
I have my real deal there,
Yeah.
which was the original 2-speed. If any of you guys could only come out of Southern Cal.
Yeah.
We had the innovators, we have the tech people, you have aerospace, Hollywood, Caltech, it can't happen anywhere else. A lot of this stuff happened because of where we live.
Yeah.
Spectra came here because of a guy named Russ Iser,
Yeah.
but we're constantly pushing the limits.
Yep. No question.
On everything, we started with glass rods. On the freshwater, they started going into the graphites, and I fished some of the early ones with Fenwick and everything, and then gravitated to G. Loomis. But we are the hub for innovation here, and you got to credit our community. We come out of a group of aerospace people, Hollywood. You got Caltech, JPL. Everything's very technical here. And if you look at our fishermen in general, we don't settle. We're going to continue to innovate and tweak stuff to make it better.
Yes.
And that's just the nature
Seems
of
like there's a lot more nuts running around here now, though.
That's right.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's probably what they called us too.
Yeah, really,
but, yeah.
really. Yeah. Best Coast Fishing has a question for you, and it is, Danny, when was the best yellowtail bite at the Coronado Islands that you can remember? What kind of yellow bites did you see there? I've seen some
man.
good ones,
Yeah, I've seen some
but
good
I'm sure
ones,
you've
too.
seen better than me.
I've seen good ones too. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of take your pick. Um, I'll have to pull it up. I've got something out here you guys will absolutely love. I saved the Yellowtail Derby pamphlet from 1966.
Explain what that was to everybody.
Well, it was from Point Loma, sport fishing.
Yeah.
Okay, it was their brochure. It had all the boats, the Luan, a lot of the boats you guys won't recognize. Um, some of them are gone, but the Holiday, some of those were almost new boats back
Yeah.
in those days, right? And if you look at it, you guys are going to flip.
So what was the Derby though? I mean,
It was.
did you have to
they
pay to
used
get into it? What
It was
did
a
you
small
win?
entry fee, but they had a Mustang, a '66 Mustang.
Oh,
for
sure.
the end of the year. They were the biggest yellowtail.
Yeah. And did you have to pay extra to get into it, or?
That one I can't even remember. My grandpa did all that.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
But
But they had a big prize.
it was a Mustang.
Yeah.
It was brand new. Mustangs I think they started in '65.
Yeah.
This was this pamphlet's a '66 from Point Loma, and you guys are gonna love this. Yellowtail fishing for the day was $12. Okay. Albacore fishing was 15.
Wow.
A bunk was 2, and if I was like once I got into college and once I was going down there in high school by myself, I would forego the bunk because for $2 I could eat in the galley. Believe it or not, there'd be a hamburger and that would be your food for the day. So
Wow.
it was an amazing time down there. But things changed.
What were the scores like? I mean, did you catch
it
100
was
plus,
great fish.
200,
Oh, yeah.
300?
You
ever see any days like that?
There were days like that. And it was an early day. Usually if you whacked them, you're done by 1 o'clock.
Oh God.
It was an early day. But yeah, get them on the yo-yos, get them on the the 45s, the 7Xs.
And we used to make squid down there back in the day, right? A lot, and fish squid down there.
Yep, and that continued on. I can remember having to go down to Salsa Puertas, down to
Yeah, right.
Pescadero, and places like that. Get squid, come back, pick up the passengers, and then go fish the Coronados.
Oh my God, yeah.
That
Because
was a long day too.
you guys used to leave as I remember, like 3 a.m. or some crazy time like that, right?
Yeah.
You didn't leave at 10 at night.
But there was times when we were, to fish the squid. Being a charter was nice because we could tell the group just get down early.
Right.
Get down early, and we're gonna kick it down, then go make bait.
Yeah.
3
o'clock in the morning is an awful time for somebody who lives in LA, though, right?
Yeah.
You're pretty much
But
leaving at midnight.
Who catches the fish? It's always the early bird, right?
Yeah,
Who catches the
absolutely.
worm, right?
Yeah.
And I think about it like even going up to Castaic, Casitas when I was bass fishing, I was going to be first in line, which meant if you're fishing with me, we're going to go have breakfast at 2 a.m. and get in line.
Yeah.
Because as long as I had position alpha, if I got on the water, and when I kicked it, nobody's going to get, I can get the spot I wanted, And that was nice about the weather, tough weather and everything else. When people would back off, you'd have more spots. And, the only thing that kills you even on the lakes is going to be the wind. It's still tough.
Yeah, right.
But rain, I loved because a lot of guys would not fish in the rain. And I just love that.
Once it thins down the amount of anglers you have out there, and your odds go up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They are pressure sensitive,
Yeah. Do you believe fish, that concept called a vacuum bite, where fish feed before an oncoming storm? I've seen it work, and I've seen it not work.
I see that too. This is a whole new show, Phil, that we can do.
Yeah.
But I did studies and talked to a lot of these guys that had. You've seen. What are they? Everybody had their own formulas and dates. Like the Solinar tables. Doug Hannon had a bite thing and this and that. Everybody had their own schedule on when the fish bite. The more and more I studied it, looked at it, what really dictates why fish bite? Mother Nature. Has to do with the great gravitational pull between the sun, the moon, and earth. There's tides. And the reason how that came about was, I know we would catch some of these big bass and bring them down. I'd put them in. I know we weren't supposed to do that. Put them in Alondra Park or Cerritos Regional Park for the kids.
Yeah.
These 10-pounders, and then they'd spawn and have little, and we'd get them with flies, and then we'd study these bass in a big aquarium, and you'd watch. One would be the dominant one, and the rest had the heads down, and this dominant one would eat goldfish or whatever you fed him, crawdad, first, and when he was full, then the rest of them could eat.
Wow.
But there was this
The alpha bass.
there is a hierarchy
Yeah.
where they did stuff, and so it was just interesting studying those things. But what
You
I
took
always
this to
tried
another level,
what
man.
I tried to figure out was bite times. When do they bite? And if you think about it, and this is what got us thinking, we're down in San Diego and you're listening on a sideband, and you're going into a stop offshore out of San Diego in Mexico,
Yeah.
and the bite's going off the Columbia River at the same time. Well, what's common there?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The light switch goes on, and it goes on everywhere.
It's the
and it
time.
goes off,
Yeah.
the same thing happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Do it by the tides.
Yeah.
I trust the tides. Everybody had their own little Solinar tables. This table, I know, I knew Doug Hannon, so I talked to him. His table didn't coordinate with what I was seeing, and we would study a lot of this stuff. We probably took it a little too far, but I mean, that's
No,
how
I don't think
we
so,
were
man.
kinda
This is
crazy,
interesting stuff. Thanks, everybody who's watching tonight. We deeply appreciate it. Throw up a like there. We've already been talking an hour, if you can believe it or not.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We got to be out of here by 7:30 tonight. Mike Morrison just whispered in my ear and gave me a little kiss on my cheek. So, yeah, I hope my wife didn't see that. No, she didn't see it. She never watches this show. She's like, "You no entiendo, Felipe." All right, Dan Smith says, Danny, have you ever been caught fishing in the Sierras in a lightning storm? Yikes, says Dan.
Yes, scary.
Yeah?
You could hear the buzzing in your rod, especially when it was worse when we started fishing graphite, but you could hear a buzzing sound. And I remember lightning striking at Crawley. I could see it hit, up on the hill there. And it's scary, but you could feel it. It's an airy deal. You'll look and your line will actually like gravitate. It will go up. It's really weird. It's weird, but it's time to get off then.
Yeah. Isaac wants to know, thoughts on bluefin tuna biting better on cloudy days? You have any opinion on that?
No, right place at the right time, your conditions, current, time of day, your tide, there's certain things that are determine it. Although, last time we went out, basically when I went on, oh God.
Oh, the Freedom? Well, no, you went on the Pride.
I went on the Pride.
Yeah.
It was first cast.
Yeah. You got the first fish?
I mean, it was just
You got to
first
show
bait,
these punk kids.
first bait.
Right
And it's just-
on.
so, I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to have a good season. It's Mother Nature. If it's cold, maybe we'll see albies. There's enough biomass of bait to sustain that too. So either way, it's going to be a win-win deal. But I don't think those bluefin are going anywhere. Especially with squid. I mean, that's candy. You're not going to walk away from a candy machine.
So the weather's too rough to get anybody out to Tanner Bay.
Yeah.
But what's your best gut feeling? Are those bluefin still there?
I'm sure they're there. As long as that bait, it's spawning out there. There's no reason for them to swim all the way back to Japan. It's the same type of biomass of bait that you're going to be eating. Only you're staying there, and you could, you stick your head out and bingo, there it is. Where there's no sense in swimming all the way across the Pacific.
Right. Dan Smith says Bayshore Motors Ford or Center City Ford gave that Mustang away. I heard those stories.
There you go.
What a great story, says Best Coast Fishing. Thank you so much, Danny. People are loving this, Danny.
Awesome.
Rick Slater wants to know, what's your personal best fish? PBA.
Which fish? What species?
Hey, Ricky, what's your biggest fish? Let's put it that way.
Oh my God. I was with Pete Demers.
Pete Demers, the trainer for the LA Kings for 25 years, and a great guy. I love Pete.
Pete and I fished for quite a few years, and I fished San Diego with him, but we made a trip down to Guyana, and I got a big arapaima. And we're shoulder to shoulder, and it was 3 wide, and it was hanging over. I got pictures of it. We'll get into it too, but yeah.
Those are bitchin' fish, aren't they?
Yeah.
Did you release that fish?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You release them all. What's just nice is Steve. You told me started this thing in Guyana. Now these arapaima are. I've had one in Brazil, you know,
You mean to eat?
in a fish restaurant.
I bet they're
many
good.
many years. It's delicious.
Yeah, I
And, you know,
bet.
I don't eat too many freshwater fish.
Yeah.
Delicious. And so it's been overfished in all of South America. Well, Steve was given a 50-mile stretch in Guyana
Yeah.
as a preserve. So it's catch and release only. And now it's done so well because of the catch and release that they're using those stocks to restock a lot of areas in South America. So
Oh, wow.
So Steve got an IGFA award, I believe, from that.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's awesome.
That's
But
fantastic.
that's another guy that used to fish on the Mustang with me all the time, and went into the travel. And now he's the king, you know. And if you're going to travel anywhere in the world, he's done his homework, and he will key you in on all the right baits, everything you need to do, preparation with bug sprays and this, that, clothing, you name it.
Not only
He's
that,
got it wired.
I've just had this conversation with him. He's very thoughtful about the people that live there and
Oh,
taking good
absolutely.
care of them, treating
Absolutely.
them right. Which
Absolutely.
I love
He's just
that.
like right up your alley.
Yeah.
Perfect. He's just like you. Yeah.
Isaac says,
Very
thoughts on letting your bait sink? People say smaller fish are on the upper water column and the bigger fish are below that. Is there any, you give
know,
that any credence?
when I first started bass fishing, I would ask a lot
Freshwater
of questions.
bass?
Freshwater
Yeah.
bass. Guys would go, they are where you find them. And I'm going, oh, what a smart aleck. Yeah. But you know, in reality, it's true. It's true. You know, so there's things that as we got into structure fishing and implementing the experience we had on the sport boats and the knowledge of currents and things like that, in time you'll start seeing different things. But that's kind of fun to figure all that out. And just when you think you have it all figured out, they give you the fin. You know, so that's the fun part and the challenging part about fishing is the learning never stops. If you stop learning, you're done.
That's so
You know, if you think
true.
you know it all, you're done, because it's not that way. It changes daily, and for good reason. It keeps our minds going.
What a great show, Danny. You are on fire tonight. Here, this gentleman wants to know, what do you look for when booking a trip to assure you have decent weather to fish in? Oh my God. Let me tell you, I can give you mine. But are there any apps, swell, period, wind?
What type of species? When are you going? I mean, there's
Let's
certain
just say
times of years-
bluefin tuna. Let's just
Bluefin
take that
tuna?
for right now. I mean,
My
you
God,
can take
we
a
were-
stab in the dark.
We
and
did
get-
the deal in December,
Yeah.
and we did our October. Of course, that was your. But I mean, the weather was phenomenal.
Yeah.
all the way.
And I
through,
had
you know,
early
you just-
summer trips.
Yeah.
We got our asses, or we had to
Yeah.
cancel.
Yeah.
You know?
You never know.
You
never
really
know.
don't. It's
Yeah,
tough. And
yeah.
sometimes, you know, just generally speaking in SoCal, the spring, you're going to get a lot of wind. And then as you move into the fall, those are normally your best weather months, but it doesn't always work out
That's
that
right.
way, does it?
That's right. That's right. That's right. You used to ask guys, hey, where are they? You know, and he goes, these guys would say they are where you find them. I'm thinking, what a smart aleck.
Yeah.
But you know, in reality, that's what it is, because everything changes. You can do your homework and you do diligence, but you're not going to catch anything at home. So you have to get on the water. You know, there's things
Get
that
off
you
the
can't
couch.
follow. Yeah, there's trends. You'll see it. You'll see, go by the fish counts. You can see what's going on. And rest assured, like up until this weather kicked up, it was pretty much limit fishing on the bluefin.
It was. It was
Yeah.
just as good as
Yeah.
it, you know.
Absolutely.
The grade dropped down a
phenomenal.
little bit, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
full speed.
Yep.
Great fishing.
Yep.
Here's a guy I think you know, Greg Silks. You know that
Greg
guy?
Silts, absolutely. Greg, I got a pic. It was funny. I was just showing Phil a picture of us in the rain throwing big swim. You know, some of those early imitation trout swim baits. I could see this in the rain.
Yeah,
Like a
Greg,
picture
he
in the
was
rain.
showing me that photo,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
look so healthy and young. And I looked at it and I said, boy, that was a hell of a long time ago.
Yeah,
Just
his
kidding,
beard was
Greg.
still black.
Greg says, low pressure storms. Take the day off. Work the best fish catching days you will ever have. So low pressure, take the day off work because it's going to bite.
I was showing Phil, Greg, this album here is just loaded with stuff, and so much of it. I was fortunate enough to document a lot of that, and a lot of it is in wearing slickers, and I think some of that had to do with, you get the fair weather guys off the lake, so there's less pressure, fishing pressure on it too, But I love fishing in the rain, but mainly because I could hit more spots without other people hitting it. They're not going to be there. No fair weather fishermen. They're only the hardcore, and the hardcore guys are pretty respectful about how.
Yeah, there's an etiquette.
The etiquette.
They observe it.
The etiquette. Yeah. So I like that.
Jeff Yeomans is another fantastic guy. He's a veteran, so we thank you,
There you
Jeff,
go.
for your service. I saw him last
Absolutely.
night at the Turner's Rod and Reel Club, and it's always good to see you, Jeff. Danny, do you think the Yellows will be active at the Coronado Islands by late April? Last year, the full-day San Diego boats were going offshore for bluefin at that time.
It's so tough. It's so tough. If you really want guaranteed yellow fishing, some of the best stuff is down below. I hate to say it, but I got spoiled, and I had a very humbling experience. I got to tell you this. Phil, did I mention that my last American Angler trip?
I don't know.
Where we went down the parking lot first thing in the morning, and I see 8 grouper out there. Well, guess what? I mean, I've caught enough yellowtail in my life, but grouper, I
right?
love grouper.
I hear what you're saying.
So in my head, as they're picking up their fish, and I see these group, I said, well, okay, I'm rigging 100-pound. I'm rigging one for a slab, rigging one for fishing a whole small yellow. I'm thinking grouper.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get down to the ridge after 2 days of running, full-on yellowtail bite. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got it all to myself. I go to the bow, back to the stern, on the other side from the bow, working the whole thing for hours and nothing. And yellowtail, meanwhile, are full on.
And you're fishing for grouper.
And I'm fishing for grouper.
Yeah.
And
anybody looking at you like Brian saying, what the hell are you doing?
no. They know I'm a nut.
Yeah.
But anyway, consequently, I didn't do anything. So I said, oh, heck with it. So I pick up my iron stick, fire my 45 out, make a long cast, get bit, nice fish, come straight at me, and just so happens we're sitting on a pinnacle, and I get rocked. So there goes 145. Right? Tie another one on, fire it out there, and I'm pulling hard. On this 40. Same thing happens. I get rocked 2 in a row, and I go, what the heck? Well, it just threw my whole day off, because now I'm doing everything wrong, right? I'm starting with grouper when there's no grouper biting. I'm fishing the iron. I'm getting rocked on these bigger fish. Now, in that period of time, I should have been watching. A lot of the guys were fishing 30-pound and 40. Now, I fish as heavy as you can go. Well, yellowtail type of fish, and you guys that have gone to Guadalupe probably know you could fish 100-pound. You're going to get rocked on 100. The harder you pull, the harder these things pull. And I've seen that at Alejos too. So anyway, one of the guys gets a huge yellow. The average fish were beautiful.
30 pounds.
A lot in the 30s.
Nice.
But one was 46, and he got him on 30-pound.
Wow.
So the next day, and I couldn't do anything. I mean, I did everything wrong. Okay? So I'm at that stage now. I'm like the passenger on the boat. They go, Captain, how come I'm not getting bit? Well, I tell the guy, how many times do you go fishing a year? Once or twice. I says, okay. Well, I'm here every day, so that's a little different. Well, now I'm that guy that goes every now and then.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm laughing at myself. I had 4 fish the first day. Was wide open, and I'm pulling hard, breaking them off, this, that, getting rocked. Next day I go, what the heck with it? I fished 30. That same 30-pound rod I got the tuna on Tanner with.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that same thing, I said, I'm going to fish 30. I went 17 for 18 the next day on a nice grade with, several in the mid-30s and nice, some nice fish. And I'm going, wow, it was easier on me. I went, like I said, I only dumped 1 fish. And I just laughed at myself because I go,
yeah, right.
When are you going to learn?
That's so
funny. That just happens.
You have such a good way of taking it, though, and learning from it, right?
You can't get mad.
No.
It's my decision. And I started thinking about it. I go, you know what? When the minute I saw that guy catch that big one on 30, it makes sense because there's times when you go to Guadalupe, that's another notorious place. The hard, heavy line, you pull hard, and you'll still get rocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaac says, can someone start an app so I can show it to my wife? I'm not going to catch them on the couch. Yeah, he wants to. She probably doesn't care. Let's put it that way. Rick Slater, how can I buy a Freedman Adventures hat? And does Danny have one? Well, let me tell you, Danny would have one if I made him. A good friend of mine, Chuck Myers, this was my Christmas present. And so
That's a nice hat.
it's not bad, right?
It's a beautiful hat.
I'm going to get you one, but we're gonna have to amend your hat to say Freedman Adventures, and then maybe in red, the Danny Kadota Show. I mean, I would love that. But hey, you know what, Rick? Because of you, I'm going to call Chuck and see if he can make some up, and then we'll get them out there, and we'll sell them for cost, pretty much. That's
go.
very kind of you. Thank you so
it's a
much.
nice hat.
Anybody wants to wear a hat from our little venture here, Danny, I got to thank them very, very much. I think that's
Perfect.
great. Mark says, hi, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great New Year. Same to you, Mark. We feel the same way. Glenn Gray, Danny, what's your take on the extended closures of Rockfish this year and 6 months next year? What this will do to the landings that depend on Rockfish? What is it going to do? It's going to hurt them financially, economically, right?
There you go again. I'm getting political because, when you start seeing some of the grade of fish and the type of fish in the shallow water, like cows, we never saw cows in 30 fathoms, and now you're seeing them. So doesn't that tell you by common sense that there's a pretty good population of those things? I know I went up the Channel Islands, did a trip, and we caught a bunch that we had to let go. Lots.
Yeah.
In shallower water. Tells me they're overpopulated. I mean, we were fishing them back in my day in 180
fathoms.
something to 100 fathoms.
130
mostly over 100.
fathoms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over 100 for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's telling me that there's enough population that they're spreading up and those things are moving up into some of the shallower water where we would have caught reds there and chuckleheads and a bunch of other junk, but not cows. So it's telling me there's probably a pretty good population of cows.
Yeah.
This is common sense.
Do you think it's really going to hurt the landings? Or, the one thing that'll save the landings is this damn bluefin, but it's not going to save the local guys.
No, it's tough. The one thing that I think it was 1995, I have that in one of my books too. There was over 100,000 salmon caught between Ventura and Santa Barbara. You remember that year?
Oh, yeah.
I was going up every week.
Yep.
I was going up with my dad. Sometimes we're back in Orange County before noon. We're limited.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And this is, Steve, you told me, was the one that booked the Seabiscuit, the old Wiggy's old boat, the old Patrician. Right?
Yeah.
Every single week. And we go up there and we were limited so fast that what we started doing, and Bob already didn't like it too much, but we had a 6-pound side bet where 5-pound max, and we all spooled off that same spool. So we all fished off that same 5-pound line, and we had a side bet which was bigger than the jackpot, and that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. I got one of those, but we're getting, so I think I got one 18 pounds on 5-pound, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
You only get 2 fish anyway, so
Yeah,
you might
right.
as well have fun with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, man. That was a lot of fun, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
I feel humbled every year, but each year I notice I get better, especially fishing bluefin tuna. So much to learn, and it changes by the year. And that attitude that angler is espousing right there is why he's successful and will always
It changes
be.
by the day sometimes.
Yeah.
So the best thing is eyes open, ears open, mouth shut, and just watch. You'll see. I mean, the guys that are getting them, it's not by accident. When they consistently catch them, it's not by accident. You got to watch. I mean, being a captain, I could look at, I would keep an eye on certain guys because they're always the guys that are always bit. It's not by luck. It's they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They know what they're doing.
Hit that like button, everybody. I can't believe that we're starting to talk about the show coming to an end. We got to be out of here by 7:30. I got to be down here really early tomorrow morning.
Holy smokes!
I got to.
You got a sleeping bag?
Yeah, I think I'm going to sleep right here. You saw
You
this.
can come up and crash at my house.
I
We
will
got plenty
do
of
that,
rooms.
man.
Yeah,
I will do that.
absolutely.
And I'm going to meet Tom Durr tomorrow morning, and we're going to go.
Kick them for me, will you?
We're
Or
going
did
on a little whale watch trip together
Oh,
because he needs some
geez.
footage. So I'm going to go out and
Jeez.
shoot gray
Okay,
whale
there you
footage
go.
for him. Yeah,
There you go.
that'll be fun. I love Tom.
Okay.
Let's see. So Isaac says, my buddy had a black sea bass chase his calico bass all the way to the boat, which was probably in 150 to 200 pound class at Catalina Island. And I thought, what the heck? So I think he's talking about they're telling you that you can't touch black sea bass, yet they're all over the place. Man, you can go to Santa Barbara Island and just get slammed on those things and cat. And
Absolutely.
they're all over the place.
You know what? If Fishing Game had half a brain, which has always been impossible, what they would do is sell tags like you sell an elk tag or something like that. There is an overpopulation of black sea bass. The problem is, and I don't know why they don't recognize it, is the biomass and everything else that the calicos that they're eating, the sand bass, the sheephead, the whitefish,
They gotta eat a
anything else
ton
they
of-
want to protect, they're eating them. They're probably eating Garibaldi, state fish. Heaven forbid.
Yeah, right.
But here's this big orange thing. Oh, that's a gumdrop, But yet, if you thinned them and if you sold tags, everybody would benefit. You keep an eye on them. You can keep track them. You could sell their stones, or you could give the stones to the Fishing Game, and they could study them and analyze them by that. But what does one mature black sea bass, 100, 250 pound fish eat? How many calicos? How many everything else that we're trying to protect? And that's where common sense is lost with these guys, and they need to get a dose of it in a hurry.
I think that we've never talked about this, so you may disagree with me. I've always thought that a slot limit for calico bass would be great. And all those big fish go back, and you keep the 13, 14, 15s.
Sure.
They did that with the redfish fishery in Florida.
Sure.
I read about that.
Yeah.
And that fishery was decimated.
Yeah.
And all the guys that had the charters back in Florida, they're going, no, we don't want to do this. No. And then about a year in, they go,
Changes now.
Oh, boy, thank God. And
Yep.
it made a huge
Absolutely.
difference,
Absolutely. I agree 100%, Try it. Let's try it. See if we can't get the fishery, help sustain it. But to keep 150, 200 pound black sea bass, what do they consume?
Yeah.
All those fish that you're trying to protect, that's for sure,
Yeah. I know. You go down to Mexico and you can catch them, And I walked into
Yes.
a fish market in Tijuana just to kind of check out, see what the price. Oh my God, it's like so ridiculous.
And let me
You can
tell
buy
you-
so much good fish,
and
but
they're
they
good
have
eating.
mero for
Yeah.
sale. MERO. That's black sea
Yeah,
bass.
and they're good eating.
Yeah. Oh, they're
Good
delicious.
eating. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. I would buy a tag. If we can get Fishing Game to get their heads. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Get Fishing Game mad at Freedman Adventures. They'll come looking for us at the Fred Hall show. Hey, incidentally, Danny and I are going to be attending all the shows. We'll put out a list of what booths we'll be at. And Rick Slater, hopefully I'll have those hats available at that time. But I'm pretty sure 22nd Street, we just talked to Mike. He's going to go to all the shows. So 22nd Street is definitely a booth we'll be hanging at, as well as several others, Opson, Daiwa. We're going to try to make a little appearance at all those
Absolutely.
places. And we'll
Sort
even go down to San Diego for a day, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I might drag you across the border to go down and have a good Mexican seafood meal.
I'm there.
You are?
I'm there.
Thank God. You're not afraid
I'm
to go
there.
down there?
No, listen. When I was in college, we were at UCSD,
Yeah.
and gas was probably 30-something cents, and I had a bug, so 4 of us would pile in my bug. We would go across the border, across on Revolucion, right across from the High Line.
Yeah, I
They
know
had a carnitas
exactly where that
place.
is.
4 of us, and my one roommate, Charlie Garcia, was 6'3", a big guy. We got a plate of carnitas that was piled this high with tortillas and stuff. The fixings.
Yum.
$1.85.
Oh, my God.
Because we didn't have any money. We were in college.
Yeah.
But it was worth it because the gas was cheap and it was no problem going across there. So I loved it. Yeah.
We got in, I can't remember what trip this was. Here's one for you. You'll love this. We get in into San Diego from a Coronado Island trip, and I'm going, hey, let's go to Mexico, you know, and everybody's like, oh, we're beat tired. Oh, screw it, let's go. So we go. We have a great meal, and we're playing the horses. You know, they have those caliente
Yeah,
sportbook
yeah,
places.
yeah.
I hit for like $1,000 playing
Oh,
playing the dogs.
nice.
I can't remember those. I think it was the dogs, which
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. But anyway, I go. That is why it pays to study the racing form. You know, I had the racing form, and I'm like, it pays. You see, I studied this really hard, and blah blah blah. The bartender walks out from behind the bar and grabs it from me and goes, "This is yesterday's racing form." So I was handicapping.
Perfect.
Yesterday.
I love it.
Oh my God. That was
Whatever works.
Yeah,
Whatever works.
exactly.
It worked. That was good enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Isaac says, poor Phil going to get all the bad publicity for all of us angry fishermen. Yeah,
Oh,
no.
I could take it.
I know a lot of fishing game guys who are good guys. And
Oh yeah,
you
no,
do
no.
too. I know you do too.
I
but,
worked with them. I was on the advisory board
Yeah, but it makes
with-
you want to pound your head
with Dave
some of the
Myers.
decisions that the bureaucracy makes.
Oh, you know, when those quagga mussels first started coming up, and you know all this stuff that was imported, you know, we told them a solution for that is build a ramp where it dips a little bit, where
Yeah.
you can use this poor thing in everybody's live wells, flush it down, and then drive off. And they kind of boo-hooed the whole deal, the state. It was
Yeah.
because we were working with the fishing game guys, Mike Giusti and a lot of guys. Pat Marley was there, but we were all on the board, the state board, advisory board. And we made that suggestion, they never did it. And so look what's happened since then.
Right.
Now you got to tag your engine. You can't, you know, things that I was doing, hopping from lake to lake every day,
Yeah.
going from Castaic to Casitas the next day, or sometimes even the same lake. You can't do that anymore,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But that could have been remedied if they had listened to us and said, you know, built that, planned ahead for it, you know. But
Yeah,
What do
you
we
gonna do? Exactly. We only have another 10 minutes to go. I'd like to keep going here,
Ooh.
man. They're throwing us out of here early tonight.
holy smokes.
10 more minutes. It's an hour and a half in. Rick Slater, did you
Wow.
ever eat at the Blue Fox? Great show. Thank you, amigos. I know what he's referring to, and I'm going to leave it right there. We're not even going to talk anymore about that, Rick. Just keep thinking Freedman Adventures hat. Let's keep it right there.
I'm lost on that one.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll explain it to you
All
at
right,
the end of
okay.
the.
Yeah.
Terrible stuff sometimes. Did you ever go down to Mexico and fish barred perch? You must have done that. No?
You know, we did most of our perching up at Zuma and stuff like, you know. But no, I didn't.
It's
I
freaking
saw
wide
those
open.
things. Yeah,
man.
I
It's
knew.
so good.
I knew guys that virtually commercial fished them.
Yeah, I did.
with anchovies.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know-
the slabs.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
slabs.
Oh.
My brother and I go down there, and then when we'd come back, we'd zip down to Chinatown. Chinese love barred
Oh
perch.
yeah, yeah,
You got your best money down there.
yeah, yeah.
I think this is all illegal, but this is many years ago. Statute of limitations is running. And then we'd just friggin' ice up again and back across the border and let's do it again. We were having fun and eating those $1.85 carnitas plates. And
That's it.
Yeah, and just
That was it.
That was like international.
Well, you know that plate that we got for $1.85. That fed all of us, all four of us.
Oh, you're
for
kidding me.
$1.85.
I thought it was each guy.
No, it wasn't each. It was for all four of us. And Charlie was, you know, I'm a big eater. You know.
Yeah.
That was for four of us, and we couldn't finish it. It was amazing.
That is freaking
It was amazing.
crazy.
Well, things were a lot cheap, you know.
Well, I mean, when you compare it to U.S. prices now, you can go down there and get some really great deals right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
really great deals.
Yep.
And the mom and pop places I love street food myself.
Yeah.
It's
No,
funny.
it's fun stuff.
My wife is from Costa Rica, right? So I'm thinking to myself when we met 20, 30 years or whatever it was, I'm thinking she's like, whoa, where do they wash their hands? I'm not eating there. And I'm like, oh, come on. And she's like, no, Felipe. So I go, munch out and then go to a restaurant with
No
her.
problem.
Yeah, it cracks me up. Let's see. Isaac, any tips for helping me get new fishermen and women out on the water? What would you tell them to tell these people? Here's my tip.
What type of fishing are you talking about? I mean, is it what time of year? What's your species?
Well, here's some general stuff that
Yeah.
I'll throw out
Yeah.
and see if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
If you disagree, doggone it.
Yeah, no.
I would start people like on something that's pretty surefire. They're going to catch some fish. They're definitely not going to get seasick. So if you see a day, you just say, "Hey, folks, we're going to not go today because it's way too rough." And and even if it's mackerel or whatever, take them where they're going to have some success, and they're not going to get sick, and the food is good, and maybe see a gray whale and some dolphin. And it's the whole experience that those kind of people are going to.
We used to take the rent rod guys to Catalina.
Yeah.
Hopefully catch a few bass, but mainly fill their sacks with blue perch. And you used to get some big chunk blue perch.
Oh, I remember those.
And
big crapper snappers.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and this story is going to kill you. Okay.
Does it have something to do with crapper snappers?
Absolutely flat, calm, greasy, calm, crystal clear Catalina blue water.
Yeah.
Beautiful, flat, calm, sunny day. And we couldn't get these guys to keep the blue perch. And they're rent rods. So we're tying on the little piece of squid. And so we start hooking. We go, okay, put them in our sack. Well, they're looking at us like, oh, if the crew is keeping them, they got to be pretty good. So now these sacks are getting full. And I'm talking about blue perch like this.
Yeah,
chunks,
I know,
right?
man. They're big old half moons.
Sunny, flat, calm, like I said. So, some guy goes into the head, and on the Mustang, the through holes come down, right? They come straight under the boat, in the men's and women's head, right? And all of a sudden, here come these little chunks, little white toilet paper pieces, and the blue perch are on
And these guys are seeing it?
and they're looking at these things, and they run back to the bait tank, pull their sacks off the hooks, and they're dumping them all on the deck. And oh, well, I guess you guys are going to be cleaning fish today.
We got into the docks on the Grande one night,
Oh,
John
man.
Dipley.
Yeah.
And he goes, boy, I got to go number 2.
Yeah.
And so I go, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. And he goes, I go, you're going up the landing, I assume? And he goes, no, I always go here I go, why'd you do that? Especially as big
This
as
is
you.
Dipley?
This is Dipley. I go, why would you do that? Go up to the landing. It's more comfortable.
Well,
And
with
he looks at
Dipley,
me.
they'd shut down the harbor.
He looks me straight in the eyes and he says, somebody's got to feed the perch. And, then you start thinking about that. You're like, oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never
I'm
eat another
telling you.
blue perch as long as I live or whatever. Yeah, so that is too much.
Wow.
Isaac says, I do my own charters and I have kids, but get wrapped up in we got to kill for everyone to enjoy the trip. Just trying to keep it fun and alive. Yeah, I mean, you got to just have fun. And sometimes it's not about catching a bunch of fish. Sometimes captains of sport boats are so competitive and so driven. They're thinking...
Worried about counts more than anything.
And I get that.
Yeah.
Because when you're on that end of the business, you know that that's what's going to bring people.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's about other things when you have a group of kids or somebody who's a novice. It is about that gray whale or those dolphin.
You do have to start them on something, and that's what we always thought, that the sand bass, and especially sand bass, was ideal for people.
Perfect.
You know,
Absolutely.
It's up and down fishing, so you're not in tangles.
Right.
Because you don't want to spend most of your time untangling people. You know, it's more of an up and down deal. It gives them a fight, gives them something they can flay out and take home. You know, just getting the sand bass. I haven't kept up with it much, but it's keeping on board with whatever's available to catch. That's fun, edible, hopefully.
Yeah. Greg Selk says, on board catch and cook trips, a good recipe. Clients love it. I would think so.
You know something? I learned one of the most popular things I'm doing now, I learned down at the Bay of LA. And, in the old days, and this kind of relates to the sushi board deal, Phil, that we went on. In the old days, in Mexico, the ceviche would have to marinate till that meat turned completely white.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Not anymore.
I
They're
know.
taking yellowtail, cutting it up like sashimi, squeezing. This is a quick recipe, people. Get your pens out.
Yeah.
Slice it, sashimi form, okay? Squeeze lime, Kiko Man, you could use the light or the regular.
Yeah.
Tapatio, very simple, right?
Yum.
Okay. Cilantro, dice up some red onions, and then to kick it off, some serrano.
Ooh.
It's simple, but it's a killer. And get some. I go to like Numero Uno where they have those fresh chips. They have them fresh made every day, and use those chips, and it's a killer. And I ended up serving it on the American Angle. I told the kids I'm going to do one of the appetizers one day, and I had 2 big trays, and we wiped them out.
Yeah.
But I learned that off, sitting at the launch ramp at Bay of LA. He cut one up, and we wiped out a small one. And Steve, you told me, and we were the ones that killed that whole fish.
Danny, I was just down at Blackfin sport fishing out of Punta Banda, right near Ensenada.
Yeah.
We get in, and that's exactly what they did. And I was thinking to myself, thinking ceviche needs to marinate a little, and no way, man. That was freaking good.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
For the better, too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, Isaac says, you guys nailed it, trying to ask for tips to make sure everybody has a good time. He's a great guy. He's looking. We are running out of time here. Let's see. I thought I saw Rick Slay. Oh, yeah, there's Rick. Hey, Silks, are you still getting stripers? With that last question you asked, Rick, I almost misread that and said, are you getting strippers? But I think we're okay. Hey, you got a little bit of time to answer, Rick. So hurry up, Greg, because we got to say goodbye. Danny, I know we're leaving everybody out there wanting more tonight.
There you go.
Does this just fly by for you?
Oh,
It's an hour and a half.
Okay.
I could go another hour and a half easily.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of experience, a little bit of time on the water.
Yep. You got me.
I've been fishing for 64 years. So, yeah.
And plus, you ran a boat. I ran a little commercial boat for a couple of years, but your level of expertise is so far
and you know what?
above mine.
I love doing everything, and including fly fishing. With me, it's another mode of fishing. Unfortunately, a lot of guys in the fly arena, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
And they would have a totally different mentality. It's me. It's figuring it out.
Yes.
And I'll tell you a quick story. But, the big shop was Marriott's out here. So, we wanted to get their business, and we were going head to head with Sage.
Yeah.
It was G. Loomis. So we flew them up, went to the Loomis plant in the morning. We went out to the chutes, and there was this private stretch of water that Gary's friend had. He had 1.5 miles of private water.
Yeah.
So we're in there, and we got all these, fly experts, the managers from Marriott's, and I had just got back from fly fishing with my cousin in Salt Lake City. He's probably one of the top fly guys maybe even in the country. He guided Jimmy and Rosalind Carter.
Oh, wow.
With all the Secret Service shop,
That's
so
awesome.
he's the one that taught me how to, And so, anyway, we go up to the chutes, and a sheriff fishes every morning on this property on the 1.5 mile stretch. On the far side, it's all Indian, so you can't fish it. But on this side, it's all private, 1.5 miles. So the 4 guys, the Marriott's guys and the Loomis guys, all go to, I think Ray Jeff was there, and the rest were the managers, and one other pro staffer from Southern Cal, not a pro staffer, but he was a fly guy, So they're fishing right there. Now there's 1.5 miles, and they're fishing right by the parking area, and the sheriff's right there, and he fishes every day. So I'm kind of hanging back, and I talked to the sheriff. I said, is that the best spot to fish? He goes, oh, heck no. He says, go down about 3/4 mile. And I had a 5-weight and a 7-weight because I just got back fishing nymphs and stuff with my cousin over in Salt Lake City, fishing the Provo and the Green River and stuff like that, right? That happened to be the Provo. And so I take a 7-weight for the steelhead streamers, and then I'm taking a 5 for fishing the red sides. They have a beautiful red side trout that's up there. It's phenomenal. So he says, no, go down about 3/4 mile. There's an island. So I take both the rods. I go down there, and we're fishing the afternoon. So I'm, don't get anything with the streamer. So I go, heck with that. Start picking up the double nymph like I was fishing in Utah with my cousin Stu. And I just start whaling on these beautiful red side trout, right? And just as the sun's going down, and the chute, you have to be careful. It's really slimy.
Yeah.
And I had felt soles, but you need felt soles with the cleats, right? And I hang a stillhead on the 5-weight, which at the to the bead head at the back only has a 4-pound, had 4-pound on it, right? So I'm fighting this thing, and just below there was a set of rapids, and I'm going, well, I'm going to have to get them up here or break them off, because if I get swept down, I'll drown.
Yeah.
Even with the waders, you're going to drown.
Right,
Moving
right.
too fast. I end up breaking the fish off, so I don't say anything. And I go back. We go out to dinner. We're going to fish in the morning, then fly back to LA in the afternoon. So I take the 5 and 7 again. Next morning I go down there, and those guys fished the same stretch. They had one follow between 4 of them, right? And they fished that same little area. You got a mile and a half, and they fished that same spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I go back down by the island. Where I hooked that stillhead, I threw that 7-weight with a streamer on it, right? And nothing. So I go, huh. So I pick up the 5-weight again, and I'll be darned. Hang another stillhead, just zzz, it's taking me down the river. I land that one, and I
Nice one, huh?
yeah, about
Wow.
8, 9 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? On 4. And it was because I could see my footing. I was able to move around in the water and
Yeah.
get into an area where I could land it and catch it and, release it. And, it's funny because then, I had the only stillhead. I go back and say, yeah, I got one. He said, yeah, what'd you get him on? I said, I got him on a nymph. He says, well, that doesn't count. And I just look at these guys and I go, when you're a purist like that, it's just telling you, it's like the guy that picks up the iron. They're eating the bait, but he'll just throw the iron. I go, get a bait on. They're not eating the iron and not eating this, that. And they go, well, that doesn't count. You didn't get them on a streamer. I'm going, you're an idiot. But you deal with that in all facets of fishing. They get that
All
arrogance
facets of
about
life.
it, and you don't, yeah, true.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to adapt and do what works. Figuring it out is the biggest part of fishing, and that's when you're going to start learning. When you start trying different things, experimenting and figuring out what works.
Adam and Angler says, Danny, you have some great rods. He loves your rods.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
This is Isaac again. Thanks, guys, for a great show. He wants to know, Adam and Angler, are you going to make fly fishing rods?
We could, but that's going to be a way down the road. I actually, my trout rods, I have a guy, he was on the pro staff up at Loomis. He's up in Northern Cali, up in Sacramento, and phenomenal fisherman. And he took and made a fly rod out of one of the trout rods.
Ishiro says, garlic, salt, and pepper, and grilled onions. That sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah, there we go.
And Isaac says one more time, awesome job. Hey, if people want more information, we're going to say goodbye. About the rods and what you're up to. Did they go on Instagram?
Semperfish, Instagram on Semperfish.
And you can see Semperfish right behind Danny there.
Yep.
Easy.
And we also playing around a little bit on Facebook.
Okay, so you're Semperfish on Facebook or Instagram?
On Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think it's Danny Kadota on Danny
Facebook.
Kadota on Facebook.
Yeah, it is. It is because I see you on there all the time.
Yeah.
Danny, what a great show! I had such a good time, man.
Perfect amount
You're
of
done
coffee.
with the coffee? Me
Yes.
too. Me too. Why don't you look in this camera right here and tell everybody, say whatever you want to say.
Hey, people.
Let me say goodbye, everybody, and then turn it over to Danny to say goodbye.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be picking a different subject every week. Phil and I are going to figure out how to show some of these pictures. Like I say, some of the documentation and history that are I've got so many of these albums. Unfortunately, I feel blessed that we were able to get shots, and I fished with a lot of writers and guys like that. So a lot of stuff was documented. And so I'll bring those things to share all this with you. They all have different experiences and different things, and in each case, there's something to be learned from all those.
Absolutely. Whole bunch of people saying, what a great show. Isaac, Dan Smith, Greg Silks, Danny.
Greg, take care.
Love the Danny Kadota show, man. Thanks again for another great show.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.